Thank you, Margaret, for that very kind introduction. Good morning. I am excited and very honored to be moderating this conversation, and I'm amazed that so many of you are here early in the morning on a Monday. So the first half, I will have a conversation with Takuya. We just agreed to call him Takuya.
That's right.
He says it's okay, so I'm going to call him Takuya. I know that you have his biography in your kit, but I'm going to ask Takuya to talk a little bit about himself in his own words.
Okay.
Where your hometown is,
right.
What your connection with LA is, maybe. If you
Sure.
can start off from here.
Okay. So, good morning, everyone. Very excited to be here. And this is a unique opportunity for me to speak in front of the very unique audience. It's quite different from my usual day-to-day business speech opportunity where there's usually a bunch of tech expert and developers and so on, quote, geeks, and then the business leaders. But really excited with this opportunity. And briefly, I think I have like 1 minute version of self-introduction to up to like 15 minutes version. I think I'll take 2 minutes version of that. I was born in Hokkaido. My father is Japanese, my mother is American. Moved to Osaka and eventually to Chibaken. Never lived in Tokyo before. I went through all the Japanese schools, so Japanese is my first language, English is my second. And I attended the college in the stateside. After that, my first job was in Silicon Valley. That's where I got into the technology world. Worked there for a few years, and then I went back to Japan and led a smaller company. I was a president for a subsidiary of a software company there for a few years. And then joined Microsoft 13 years ago. And then did services, enterprise sales, and then as been introduced, I was responsible for managing 25 countries in Central Eastern Europe. Microsoft has very poor understanding of geography. Central Eastern Europe ranged from Baltics, the 3 countries, to Malta right next to Italy, to Cyprus, to Bulgaria, to ultimately bunch of stans, so Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, ultimately Mongolia. So those were my territories. Personally, my wife is a Japanese Hawaiian. She's 3rd generation. I have 4 kids, 2 girls, 2 boys. When I got married, I never wanted to have a job with a budget or quota. It stresses me out. But first budget came from my wife. She comes from the family of 5 girls, and she said, I need to have at least 2 girls. So I had a girl, and then a boy. I missed my budget. And I had a boy. I missed my budget again. And had a girl. So I made my budget. So 2 girls, 2 boys, and hope that was 2 minutes. A little bit more.
I know you hate to be asked this question, but as a reporter, I'm going to ask it anyway.
Yeah.
What is your hobby?
Oh, I really don't like that question. Work. Yeah, I like work. And then also family, hanging out with family. And because the reporters started asking those questions, I had to pick up a hobby. I bought a nice camera. I'm not good at it, but I enjoy taking photos. And then because I work in Japan, my predecessor told me that, Hirano, you have to play golf. So 3 years ago, or 4 years ago, I started playing golf, but I'm not going to talk about my score today.
What is the most exciting part of being the CEO of Microsoft Japan?
I like the word impact. That I honestly believe, not to be egoistic or too proud, but I really believe that technology can impact and change a people, mindset, society for good, for better. And I believe that it's such a unique opportunity that I have as a CEO of Microsoft Japan. I truly believe that the technology, the recognition brand that I have can really help impact how people work, especially in Japan. As if there's many of you from Japan, work style innovation is a big theme in Japan right now. Mm-hmm. I honestly believe that we can contribute in that element as well as the personal well-being. So, I mean, really impact is a keyword that really excites me every day. Not necessarily, again, meeting the budget and all that stuff. I consider that more as a tax that I have to pay. It's a baseline, but the impact is something I get excited about every day.
How often do you travel?
Not much.
That's so.
Not much. I mean, when I was looking after Central Eastern Europe, I traveled 200 days a year, quite extensive. But now I go to Seattle 6 times, 7 times, in different parts of the world, time to time, domestically, Osaka, Nagoya, Hokkaido, but not too much.
Okay. And your connection with Los Angeles?
Oh, that's right. My sister lives here. My brother-in-law, he's a redhead Idaho man. Very, very good man. I respect him a lot. He works for Honda here. And my wife, not my wife, my sister, not my wife, is here with him. Yeah.
Okay. Before I follow up on this, I just want to get to know the audience better. So if you can if I can ask for a show of hands, if you're more comfortable in English or in Japanese. So for those of you who are more comfortable in English, can you raise your hands, please? Okay. And for those of you who are more comfortable in Japanese. Okay, maybe a bit more of the Japanese.
More Japanese,
okay, got
yes.
it. Thank you so much. So I'd like to dive into the topic, which is community building, Nikkei businesses and corporate social responsibility. As you alluded to, you worked for some companies before joining Microsoft.
Yeah.
I understand one is Kanematsu in Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
And the other, you said it was a software company,
That's right.
which is
Hyperion.
Arbor Software, which turned into Hyperion?
Yeah, it was a merger acquisition.
Okay.
So yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about the difference between those companies in terms of culture, diversity, inclusion?
I can.
You can?
Oh my goodness.
Okay, let's hear it.
So my first job was in Silicon Valley. It was Kanematsu. It's a trading firm. It was a U.S. subsidiary of that. And the reason I joined a company in Silicon Valley was because I was engaged back then, and my wife was from Northern Cal in Silicon Valley. So it was not a really career-driven move. It was more kind of a romance-driven move that I went to Silicon Valley. Joined Kanematsu. It was a great opportunity, but I was taught the great Japanese way of doing business. Very structured, very hierarchical. What to do, what not to do. I clearly remember one of the managers that told me, said, "Taku, you cannot trust technology, and we're working in Silicon Valley. We can't trust technology." He said, this email thing, it's really fishy. So after you send email, make sure you print it out and fax it. And if the document is super important, then you call and make sure they receive the document.
So which year was this?
This was 1994, 5, somewhere there.
Okay.
Just kind of email became mainstream, and of course the conservative Japanese leadership was like, okay, that's kind of really fishy. And I was in Silicon Valley, and all my friends that work for American startup tech companies, they're doing something really ridiculous. They go out for lunch and they don't come back because they find job during the lunch. And then they're telling me, Takuya, I got 20% raise, 3% raise and whatnot. And I have my annual review, and my boss goes, Takuya, you did a really great job. So I'm going to give you a special raise of 4%. And I thought, something's wrong here. So I changed my job 2 years later to this software company, which was quite opposite of that. There were only 400 employees. They didn't have any business in Japan. I was hired to do something in Japan from the US. And there was no guidance. There's no structure. And they just told me, Taku, do something about Japan business. And that was the only thing. My hiring manager quit after 2 months. 3 months later, my boss's boss quit. So I pretty much reported directly to the CEO, who I didn't know who was or anything. So you can kind of imagine the difference in how they run the business, thought process. But it was definitely a learning experience, and it's kind of stretched my growth mindset.
What about in terms of workforce diversity?
Oh, that was quite different too. Because when I worked for the Japanese companies, majority was expat from Japan, and then they were sent to Japan as part of their career move. But it was not really helpful for the local employees' career move because all the key positions were occupied by the local Japanese. Lunch break, everyone get together, go to the same restaurant together, come back together. And I remember my boss saying, around 5 p.m., 6 p.m., and he goes, now the work time. And I'm like, okay, that's a little strange, but very, as you can imagine, homogeneous, very same way. Whereas the Silicon Valley startup kind of mentality was quite different. People came different time, different outfit, peers, some brought lunch, some went out. Gender diversity was very visible. And then very outspoken, and then that was completely accepted. People didn't have to do a certain way or same way. So it was quite a shift for me too.
So you worked at Kanematsu,
Hyperion,
and now Microsoft.
Microsoft, that's right.
From your personal experience, how do you think diversity inclusion drives innovation?
Well, even Microsoft, people say Microsoft is a big company. Yes, it is a big company. And then when you think about Microsoft, probably you think about engineering company, coding company, maybe a little bit sales, marketing, and probably Windows, something like that. Well, when you look at the Microsoft, type of the people they work there, yes, they're developers, but they're artists, they're musicians, they're athletes, and their background is so diverse and so different. The Windows, thank you very much for using Windows. If you're using Windows, if you're using Apple, you're still great. Windows only represents probably 12% of our total revenue today. The majority of revenue comes from otherwise. So our business structure is diverse. So as a result, the type of the people that work at Microsoft are quite diverse too. That you have to have different thought process, and then that ignites different energy. I think that energy is one of the most important component of the business. But when there's so much diversity in the organization at the same time, I think you need to have a clarity, the simplicity in what you want to do and how you want to accomplish. So the combination of the energy and also the clarity is necessary to have really dynamic business. Of course, you need to demonstrate a little success step by step, make sure that people recognize the progress and what's going on. But different company, different sizes, but diversity definitely impacts the business. I loved Kanematsu, but unfortunately, Kanematsu is really not on the map right now in the business game compared to what it used to be. So I think it shows.
Talking about diversity, you were telling us a bit about your days working at the stands, the stands, Mongolia. So you were responsible for 25 countries.
It started at 24, and something happened. It became 25. I think some country went independent. Yeah. So
how was looking after 25 countries?
That was most exciting. I think. Since, are there any Microsofties in this room?
That's a good question.
Good, so I can say anything. I love that job more than today's job because it was so exciting. It was so, the thought process, the culture, 25 countries, different languages, religion. I never had access to them. It really impacted how I think and how I look at things. when I run business, whether Microsoft Japan today or Central Eastern Europe or Hyperion or whatever, I try to find a common denominator and how I can mainstream the element that can make biggest impact for the business result or the people result or whatever. 25 countries. One country had a piracy rate of 98%. So their dear Microsoft user who loved it, but only 2% pay for it. Whereas other country has such much mature culture and then appreciation for technology, piracy rate was single digit or maybe 10%. Some country GDP per capita, a couple $1,000s. To another country was $35,000. So I was in challenge about how to find the common denominator across different languages, different nationality, different religion, and economic status. So again, to your question, it was super exciting. I loved it. But the people in Central Eastern Europe had such strong commitment for excellence. They really wanted to, and they really believed that they could do and make influence in their countries. So it was quite different. It was quite challenging. But personally speaking, it changed me big time in that 3 years. More than what I'm doing right now, more than ever before. So yes.
So far, I think the keywords that you've provided us is impact, energy,
Yep.
clarity. Was there any personal experience that led to this conclusion that these are very important for you?
Well, I don't think there's single experience. I think there are multiple experiences. I mean, when you hire people too, I look those points as well. Some people, when you hire people, you look at their experiences and knowledge and how smart they are and which college they graduated from and blah, blah, blah. To me, that's more blah, blah, blah. Truly, people who bring energy to the workplace or into the organization is the key, is the success for what you do. And the simplicity or the clarity and message really align people in how you want to operate together. And when I talk about clarity, it doesn't mean the top-down direction of instructing what people to do, just like I received during Kanematsu Day, appreciation for Kanematsu, but it was different kind of clarity. I think people can align better if you have a common goal. The bigger goal, the better it is. That people can feel energy, people feel there's a sense of purpose, sense of something to accomplish together. That's what it makes sense, and that's when people get energized. So, I think when you're younger, myself especially, you work for money because you don't have a place to live. I didn't have a car, so I need to have money to survive. So that was that. And then becomes career. You want to build your career, you want to have more experience. That's nice, but ultimately people work for purpose. That's an impact point. And then this impact point is consistent whether you're young or halfway in the career, but there is element of the impact. Sorry, kind of answering long here, but my personal experience, there are many experiences. Again, coming back to the Central Eastern Europe, I share some example, but right now in Japan, I'm really, really excited and focused about changing how the Japanese work and the Japanese society. I've been really focused about this for many years, last 5-6 years. Just quick example, and then especially for those who do business a lot in Japan can relate to this, is that people go to work at 9 and supposedly end at 5, and then they do something called zangyo, just leave, stay there and work for a couple more hours. And then unfortunately, Japan's going through negative population growth. By data, you know that in 20 years, the working population will decline by 25%. And then when you look at the productivity of that, Japan ranks the lowest among the developed country for the last 10 years. So declining population combined with the lowest productivity, what does it mean? And I look at the people, how they work. Mm-hmm. They come at night, they stay, and then over time and everything, and do they look happy? I'm not so sure. Maybe they're happy. Do they have sense of purpose? Do they have the excitement, the energy they want to do? Or there's more kind of a community responsibility or social belonging that they want to do? So kind of started this kind of journey of the impact. I really believe that combining with the power of technology and maybe demonstrating how we work together, I thought we can do something about it. So we, of course, technology companies, so extensively start using technology for communication, collaboration, using AI to do personal suggestion and whatnot. AI, how do you work in the productivity? It's really funny. I get a report weekly from AI and tells me how I worked last week. For example, I get a report like this. Hirano-san, 27% of the time, you're attending the same meeting with Yamada-san. Is it really necessary to attend the same meeting with Yamada-san 27% of the time? Well, divide and conquer. A different kind of message comes. Takuya, 35% of the time during the meeting, you were doing other stuff, homework. Is it really important for you to attend such meeting? It tells me something like this too. Last week, I collaborate most with this person, that person. I haven't worked with that person. The most productive person using this document, that document, and whatnot. So I start sharing this experience and then start kind of doing within Microsoft Japan, start sharing with other customers and partners, start doing the worksite innovation day and became week. By year three, I had other 35 companies joining me with this kind of an activity. Next year, about 700 companies joined. And now we have a community over a couple thousand companies working with us to really trying to change. I got to meet with Prime Minister Abe to talk about this and governors and so forth. In the last 6-7 years, over 1 million people came to Microsoft Japan to come and see and learn how we work. Now, long answer, sorry.
It's okay.
But talking about the impact, yes, I'm selling technology. Yes, I'm introducing excitement through technology, but really what drives me and motivates me is more of how I can impact the companies, the business of work style innovation, and trying to unite my team and partners and customer under this big idea. Maybe there's a bigger idea, but to me that's a pretty big idea in doing this. So
that's very interesting. Does everybody at Microsoft Japan get that report, or just
everyone?
Everyone?
100%.
Wow. Okay.
Everyone. And we like to measure too. I mean, after all, we made Excel, so we have a lot of spreadsheets. We can do a lot of interesting calculation and measurement and BI business, intelligence. So we measure, and people love it. And people who use it.
You sure people love it?
Yeah, because the thing is, this BI thing or like a weekly report, it sends to you. It comes to you. It doesn't go to your boss. If it goes to your boss, then boss can critique you. Mm-hmm. But if it comes to yourself, I mean, you do a lot of training at work, right? Training is nice because you learn something. The much more powerful thing is self-realization. The awareness is much more powerful than training itself. So this report is more for the realization, the awareness. What do you do? How do you do? Give you different perspective. So yes, I think that one, people love it. Weekly revenue report, I'm not sure if they like it, but I think that one's okay.
You use the word work-life choice rather than work-life balance.
Oh, yeah.
What's the difference?
I'm not against work-life balance. I think it's a good thing. People should have balance. But reflecting my life and observing people, different people that achieves a lot, and when I say achieves a lot, I don't mean by career or monetary return, but this community as well, achieving a lot. People have to decide when to invest and commit and over-rotate in doing something. I don't think I became the CEO of Microsoft Japan by just having a work-life balance. I made a conscious choice of certain years. I didn't take any vacation, national holidays because I was driven. I wanted to work. I want to make impact. I had a drive to do that. That was my choice. But after having 4 kids, my choice is to spend more time with my family over the weekend, not open the PC, but more communicate. I have a choice. I want to do more good for the family, the friends, and the people that I associate with. So I think it's important for the company to provide an environment where people can have a choice. They can choose if they want to work more or if they want to have balance. Small example, you can stop me anytime if I'm talking too much, but as I mentioned, even Microsoft Japan too, we had a work policy that people have to come. We had the core working hour between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. and whatnot. And I was talking with some of the employees, young children, and I said, hey, how can I help you? How can a company help you so you can do more? Do you need Takujisho is what?
A nursery?
Nursery. And the employee said, that's nice, but she said, I want a choice where I can leave the office anytime and pick up my kid without feeling guilty. And I said, that makes sense. So 2 weeks later, I changed the company policy of 0 core working hour, that people can come or leave or anytime, anywhere, how they want. Because again, I don't measure people's success by how many hours they work, but I like to measure by the impact. So I think I was able to provide the work-life choice that they needed, that this employee didn't feel like her career was inhibited based on her children's nursery time or whatnot. Small example, but
no, it's not a small example. It's a big example. Yeah. But the word choice, it has a feeling of either or. So wouldn't that put pressure on some people?
I mean, you can have a work choice and life choice at the same time too. It's a combination. People like to. I mean, it's easy to have like black and white conversation, but I think it's kind of multi-color, multi-layer. Even the life overall too, right? I mean, work-life choice. People talk about 3-stage life: education, career, and retirement. Now there's popular thought about people live life expectancy will go up to 100 years. Then it's not 3 stages life. It's a multi-stage life. You need to make multiple choices, and sometimes with career, sometimes with more kind of social contribution back to career, whatnot. So again, it's not this or that. I think and. Occasionally or, but and or conversation.
I read that your wife and your secretary communicate with each other to manage your schedule.
Yes.
How did that become?
So I lied. I said there's work-life choice, but I don't. My wife and secretary decide my life and my choices.
How does that work? I mean, do they call each other? Do they email each other?
They do. They call. They email each other. Some, especially Japanese men, don't like to bring work back to their home, and they want to have like clear separation. The work is work, family is family. But again, I made a conscious decision many years ago that I was spending so much time at work that I wanted my wife to be part of my work journey. That I thought it was important for my wife to understand what I'm doing, the challenges and difficulties and everything. So I started describing everyone in my office, Tanaka-san to Suzuki-san to John to whoever, and then, this person that has unique personality and causing me trouble. And so she knows pretty much everything about my work and my business priorities. And so it became so natural for me to connect my assistant, who really helps my life and leads my schedule, and my wife. And so it was very natural, and then there's the transparency is clearly there.
Do you like it?
I like it because I don't have to worry about. They decide my life. It's good.
I'm asking because I've never heard of that before.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, I've never heard of one secretary sharing or managing the schedule of one husband. So that was very interesting.
Yeah, it's great. My wife reminds me of my secretary's birthday. So when I go to the office, there's a gift for her. I just pick it up and go, and I get extra credit for that, which is fantastic, vice versa. It works out fine for me.
Okay, that was the most important question I wanted to ask today.
Okay.
Can you talk about of what Microsoft Japan is doing in terms of CSR? Some examples you can share with us.
Yeah, we do many things.
Your favorite ones?
The ones. Well, we do. We support the. Might be a little different than CSR, but we like to help the startup companies because, especially in Japan, there are not really a whole lot of startup companies. It's almost discouraging that when I visited China and visited all the startup incubator, and they came to Japan and tried to do a lot of recruitment, and they told me that, Taku, there is no true startup in Japan that we wanted to invest in. It was like really.
What's a true startup?
I don't know what they're looking for, but they fund it in Europe, US, Latin America, everywhere, but in Japan, somehow they couldn't find the right one. But anyways, helping the startup, we provide software, the technology, and then help to train. We do the same thing with the students. We provide a lot of software for the students, but giving software alone is not good enough because you have to have teachers. Usually teachers are the blockers because they don't know how to use the technology, and unless the teachers know how to use technology, providing technology itself is not good enough. So we train tens of thousands of teachers so that they can help the students. Last Friday I was at one of the universities for the accessibility program where there some handicapped people, some learning disability to physical disability. Some people are much more visible and understand they have challenges, but the harder ones are those who have non-physical handicap. It's hard to recognize. They have reading, comprehension challenge, other challenges, different mix. But we do a lot with those people. We make kind of customized technologies for those people that they can have. So the technology that will empower them to do more, and so that they can have, again, the choice of what they want to accomplish.
As for CR, is there like a common goal being decided in Seattle and you have to follow some certain rules, or is it purely what you can decide on?
Well, there's a set of guidance, and then also the program that the headquarters designs and also shares with us, which we follow. But also we do our own thing as well when we find and think it's rightfully to do. And there's a more programmatic one, but also there's spontaneous one. For example, when there's a huge earthquake in Tohoku and then Kumamoto and those. We were the first one in Kumamoto to provide, because when all the communication gets shut down because of the network issue and whatnot, we provided with the devices, and also we had the infrastructure to help the municipals so that they can connect to the evacuation center and others. So we do that. But coming back to the headquarters direction, the current CEO, he's the third CEO in 43 years of Microsoft history. He renewed Microsoft mission is to help every organization and individual on this planet to achieve more. And he really means by that. His son has a severe handicap, and he's really committed in helping every individual and organization to achieve more. Example, when we launch Windows 7, Windows this, Windows that, we usually do a big launch event in Paris, New York, Tokyo, and if you know Akihabara, then we do big party and celebrities. But under his leadership, when we launched Windows 10, which is the most current one, he said, don't do any of those parties. And just invite the fans and recognize and appreciate them. And compared to past CEO, he didn't go to any major cities. He went to the most remote place in third world country with him and just a few staff alone, just to commit him and then recommit himself to truly help every individual and organization on this planet to achieve more, even in the country of the most remote area where there's no network, no technology. So immediately after that, he made Windows 10 free for a period of time. And then he does all different things based on this mission. So whatever we do, and even when I attend the business review, often the business review starts really talking about this mission. And then we really think and spend a lot of time talking about why Microsoft exists on this company. On this universe. And it's again, not necessarily CSR, but our mind and mission is really deeply stemmed on that.
I think a lot of people are interested in community building. You talked about Kumamoto, the earthquake. Can you talk a little bit more in detail, like, the earthquake hit? What happens at Microsoft?
So, kind of sequential earthquake or any disaster happens, the first thing we do is that everyone reach out to their customer or counterpoint outside of Microsoft. So it could be the consumer and the enterprise, it could be a city, it could be school, municipal government, to measure the damage and see the area where we can contribute and what we can do. And then we gather the information, form a committee, and we kind of start prioritizing where to start and where to put our resources. If there's a need for more devices, whether it's smartphone or PC, we have our network, so we reach out to the PC maker, used machine maker, and then collect certain amounts and try to dispatch them. If there's a communication tools or phone issue, then we have more kind of online chat system, FaceTime, but we have our own version too, that we deploy, for free, and we do that. We send people over there for different kind of charitable communities and access. So that's what we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Obviously, Microsoft is an American company.
Mm-hmm.
How do you integrate Japanese businesses into American culture and American businesses like Microsoft into Japanese culture?
It's a difficult, big question, I think. I don't think there's a easy answer to that. But I will come back to the point of impact, where you want to create the impact point. What do you want to accomplish? What do you want it to do? And the bigger, the bolder, the better, where people can unite under the one purpose and understanding and direction. I just described about Microsoft vision and mission, what we're trying to do. Well, Microsoft operates in 120 countries. We have over 120,000 people, full-time employee, other part-time included, easily double, triple of the population. Unless we have that mission and the vision and direction, I think it will be difficult if we're just too focused on selling stuff or just talking about technology stuff. I don't think we can really unite or we can have a common way of operating. So the starting point, I think, is having a goal or bold idea about what you want to accomplish, where you want to go. Everything else just fits in after that. In Japan, there's a unique way of operating, doing business. For example, US, other parts of the world, we do a lot of direct sales, but Japan probably is the only country or major country in the world that we do 100% indirect sales. We sell everything through partners because we believe that the partner community is vital and super important, which is quite unique. But the mission is the same. What we try to accomplish is the same. What we sell is the same, but how we do it is a little different. But I'm not sure if I'm answering, but that's how I look at it.
Well, I interviewed Mr. Kitashiro of IBM Japan a long time ago.
Yeah.
And he was saying that IBM Japan is the most Japan-oriented company in Japan because he can't go beyond the borders. Other companies like Hitachi or Panasonic could expand to China, could expand to Vietnam, but there would be IBM Vietnam, IBM China.
Yeah.
So they're really Japanese. That was his point. And I'm assuming that, same for you.
Yeah. I mean, thanks. And then just like I just described, in Japan, we decided that working with partners is most important because we're an American company and we do a lot of business and then we customize a lot of things for Japan, the product itself and program. But we believe that the Japanese customer and the partner are working very closely together, that involving the third party can serve the customer the best. But at the same time, we try to, I really, the culture of feedback and coaching is extremely important, I think. Telling people what to do, fine, but unless there's a true feedback cycle, there's no learning. Without learning, you're not going to improve at all. So coming back to your questions, we test, we try, we adjust to fit into the Japanese business model. So we've been in Japan for 30 plus years. How we operate, we have modified quite a bit. When I was leading the enterprise sales division, I even invited the Japanese CIOs and CEOs to our office, and I asked them to do role play for my sales rep. Now manager, 25 years old, 30 years old, younger sales rep, so that they can have that experience to truly understand what CEOs thinking, CIOs thinking, what is the priority. Small example, I repeated many of those things so that people can have it. And then again, coming back as Microsoft All Up under the new CEO, we truly believe that know it all is less important than learn it all. The learning culture is super important, and the learning culture will really drive the growth mindset. Because we had an issue in the past that Microsoft culture was such that we have to know everything, we have to be perfect at everything, we cannot be wrong. If you're wrong or dumb, then you're a loser. I'm kind of talking in an extreme sense, but this learning culture or growth mindset is so powerful that it really opens up your mind to try to think and learn what other people are thinking, incorporating, and that will help us to become stronger and drive even more. I remember our CEO walking, I heard, and then one of the office had a big sign, perfection every day, as a model, that they want to do a good job every day. And the CEO said, take it off, please. Please take it off. Because if you try to be perfect every day, no one's going to make mistake. And if people are scared of making mistake, then there's no growing. So derailing here, but I truly believe that this growth mindset is really important. Even our compensation model, which I guess I'm not supposed to talk about, is that usually people will pay for the impact or the result that the individual has delivered, whether sales quota, marketing, whatever. Our reward system is different. We have 3 categories. One is that the outcome, the deliverables, okay, sales, whatever you achieve. Another element is the question of how did you contribute to the other's success? And if you don't do that, we don't get full bonus. Another question is, did you ask for others' help for your own success? And unless you achieve in these 3, you don't get full recognition of our performance. Again, changing the culture and concept of learning mindset, growth mindset, into how you reward people. Maybe the community works the same way too. You can try to do your best and you try to accomplish what you're asked to do, but you kind of take a step back and look around and say, have I contributed to this person's success? Have I helped this person's success? Or, am I I don't know, humble enough, or am I kind of balanced enough to ask for others' help for my success? Business world is getting so complicated. There's no such thing as simple business. It's getting more diverse, and I think one of the themes is more inclusive and whatnot. To be successful in business, you need to have a capability to bring others together in your journey. And there's no lone wolf success or anything. Truly, unless you bring others together in your journey, you will not make it. You will not be big. You're not going to be successful. And I observe that time to time in my organization, partners, competitors. So I went super off. Back to you.
Well, my last question was supposed to be, how do you succeed in business? So you answered my question, actually.
Oh.
But so lastly, you talked about the bigger, the bolder, the better for ideas. Lastly, can you talk about how you get those ideas, and if there's anything that you left off?
Again, I don't come with those ideas. I involve other people because I know that there are many smarter people than myself in the organization. And it's super exciting how people think about success and impact point, and you get inspired. But again, I just mentioned too about you have to have an appetite to learn about what's going on around you. The world is changing every day. So maybe, your big, bold, as of 5 years ago, is no longer valid. Think about, again, representing Microsoft. When Bill Gates founded the company 40 whatever years ago, his big idea was to have computing power in every home and on every desk. And I think the world has achieved that already. Mm-hmm. On average, people use about 4 devices a day. Tablet, PC. Now I think car is a device too. There's so much computing power. If I had that bold idea today, I'm obsolete. I think if you're business owners, then you have to have a time-to-time checkpoint to look at your worldview, your ecosystem, where you stand, and what kind of environment you're working in. Today, our worldview is we're surrounded in the world of intelligent cloud and intelligent devices, or edge. That's a world versus compared to Bill Gates' world. That we are living in the world of intelligent technology, and the big, bold, and ambition will be based on that worldview of where we stand. Maybe that's a starting point, and that's not an end point, but as a starting point, it kind of helps you to think and figure out where you want to have your big, bold, and idea.
On that positive note, please join me in thanking Takuya for his fascinating and very inspiring story.
Thank you.